Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Star Trek New Worlds. My name is Tony. Thank you for joining us today. As I make sure my phone is off. Hi, welcome. For those of you who are joining us live, thank you for joining us live. For those of you who are catching us on the replay, thanks for taking the time. Excuse me as I'm getting warmed up here. If you are joining us for the very first time and you have no idea what in the world this Star Trek New Worlds thing is, well, it is a turn-based strategy game that we play online with you here on YouTube, on Facebook Live, and on Twitch, showing it to you with the magic of Vassal. And it is a game that we play using the Federation and rule set as published by the Amarillo Design Bureau, set in the Starfleet universe. So if you're a fan of Star Trek sci-fi and all things turn-based strategy, then this is your campaign, your center of excellence for all things fun and exciting when it comes to crushing your enemies, exploiting resources found, expanding those borders, and all other things for X. Of course, I'm missing that last X. So anywho, thank you for joining us today. Very exciting series of events. What are we talking about? Well, we're talking about the Battle of the Five Fleets. Our GM thought of it very aptly as the Battle of the Five Armies. If you're a Tolkien fan, you know what we're talking about. But boom! The Juggernaut Menace offering a caffeination injection. Thank you very much. Yes! Well, thank you for that. Right. So what are we talking about today with the Battle of the Five Fleets? Well, first of all, five fleets. We know there's the Four Powers War. Who's the fifth fleet? What's going on? What will the fallout of this particular battle be? Is it pivotal? Where is it? What's going on? We'll walk through the battle itself and we'll show you what was lost and what was gained. And of course, the whole Turn 63 reveal. But before we get started, let's jump into the chat and say hello to everybody. Oh my goodness, just going to the very beginning of the chat here. Jim, fusion beams induced to warming. Preparation heat coils, maybe preparing heat coils being charged. I don't know. Plasma nuclei magnetically excited. Eugene, ready for the update. Looking forward to seeing the news. Has anyone broken the next tech level? Will the space lens continue to drift around or will someone take it out? Good question, Jim. And let's see here. Eugene, with the feds, or will the feds deal with their monster or the big planetary defense force that has popped up? Will they finally convert the minor planet to be able to move their diplomat? Well, we'll find out shortly, or at least we'll get an update on that. Don't forget to like today's show, Eugene says. Eugene, you're like, man, we should get you on this side of the microphone. I mean, yes, if you have joined us and you're watching us live and currently we're getting close to our double-digit goal and you haven't yet hit that like button, then please consider doing so. And of course, if you like things turn-based strategy and and Star Trek, then please consider joining us as a subscriber and following us along as we go through this campaign. Oh, speaking of which, we have another announcement on that too. I'll get to that after I get to the chat. Right. So what do we else? Bill, Gordon's in the house. Paul is here. Eugene, howdy everyone. Popped a bag of popcorn. Update is promising a popcorn level exciting. Very exciting. Daniel is in the house. Lord Lawless, let's go. Woohoo! All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Okay. So, as since we were talking about subscribers, let me take a moment to recognize Captain Phoenix. Captain Phoenix, thank you very much for being our latest subscriber on the show. We are currently at 235, slowly creeping our way to that sort of star in the far distance, the 500. We're eventually going to get there, hopefully, maybe, knock on wood. And at 235 subscribers, we are, 47% there, I think. And so anyway, we're trying to get there. 250, I guess, is our next milestone. That makes us 50% of the way to 500. Why 500? 500 is when they unlock the community tab for us as a YouTube channel. So that allows us more sort of opportunities to be able to share content with you and things like that. So it would be, obviously, that's an aspirational goal. We're trying to get there, and any help that you can offer around that would be wonderful. If you enjoy watching this kind of stuff and you have folks in your circle, friends, family, whomever who might like this kind of stuff, then feel free to tell two friends and share the exciting campaign drama that is Star Trek New Worlds. But speaking of campaigns, before we dive into the rest of this one, let me just announce for you, and I've sort of been talking about it time and time and time again in various streams, and you're probably sick of me mentioning the new campaign. Tony, will you just shut up already? Just get on with it, whatever. Well, we have a date for the new campaign to start. And it's for those of you in North America, July 1st. A timely date for everyone in the below the 49th parallel. I mean, Canada Day is July 4th up here. Or sorry, July 1st is Canada Day. Let me try that again. And July 4th is Independence Day. So close to the special day for our folks down below the 49th. It is the special day for those who live in the Great White North and the land of the Maple Leaf. My goodness. And so yes, July 1st is the official start of Into the Void. Into the Void is our new campaign. Jim, our Hydran player, will be our GM, and we have some new and exciting sort of features that are going to be introduced as part of our Vassal module. We have members of our community who have joined us and helped in creating the updates to the Vassal module. Thanks to Jim's leadership as far as pioneering and being sort of quite demanding with regards to certain features and new functionality that he wants to see as a GM in the game. We'll unveil those as we go through and we can see what's going on with that campaign, perhaps with a reveal of certain aspects of the module. But essentially, July 1st is the official start date for our new campaign Into the Void. I am quite excited about this, if only because getting the opportunity to be able to play against our current GM, Daniel, in that game will be exciting. Now, there's all sorts of interesting things that will be unveiling as we get closer to that July 1st date with regards to, for example, how do you sign up for being part of that campaign? Well, I will let you know that, first of all, those members who are already supporting us on Ko-fi or Patreon are first up. And then, of course, folks that are already part of the New Worlds Discord channel and community. So if you are already part of that community, a supporter on Ko-fi or Patreon, then you're first in line to be able to get into this campaign. Many of you have already been in contact with us and are already aware of what's going on, or at least some preliminary stuff when it comes to the campaign. More detail on that will be coming as we get closer to July 1st and in the weeks to come. However, be on the lookout for and I got to work out the technical pieces here, but I'll be either putting out an email or creating a link to a sign-up page where you will be able to register to be able to get into this campaign. We do have a maximum sort of number of folks that we'll have in the campaign. That number is still sort of fuzzy because we have room for many, but there's a certain amount of work that goes into managing a campaign like this. And so we just want to make sure that it's the right number and it's not too much for any one GM to handle. So we'll get a little bit more clarity on exactly what that number is, on exactly how you can get signed up. But if you want to be up to date and sort of finger on the pulse of what's going on with regards to this new Into the Void campaign, then please be sure to hit that button that Captain Phoenix did, and you are signed up and ready to rock when it comes to our subscription. And of course, you have alerts ready to go, because as we make little streams and little videos around how to get involved, you will see those first. So hopefully that's exciting. I know I'm excited about it. And like I say, there's going to be new and exciting visuals that are going to be part of the Vassal experience. Now, granted, Vassal is Vassal. There's only so much you can do with it, but you'll get to see sort of the new features that will be introduced, and sort of how that'll be interesting for you as an audience to be able to watch and sort of follow along the campaign. Are you excited to be seeing what's going on? We'll share some of the, hopefully we'll get to be able to share some of the new factions, or the players and their factions, about who they're going to be, how they're going to be playing it, and so on and so forth. Already in conversation with some of the we'll call them the older player, the original players that are moving on to this new campaign, about what they're going to be playing and how they're going to be playing it. It's already very entertaining. So we'll be sharing some of that information with you live. All right. I'm staring at myself, if only because I'm looking at my picture and it looks like I'm a little out of focus. You let me know if I need to tweak that focus. I thought it's a fixed focus lens. It shouldn't be going out of focus. I don't understand it. Anyways, who knows? All right. You're here to see the update about what's going on. And so, Tony, let's not delay any further. Let's get into the fun-loving excitement of the map. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to our current campaign of Star Trek New Worlds. As you know, if you've been here before, I'm looking at this the first time as you are looking at it for the very first time. Let's go straight to the Battle of the Five Armies, or the Battle of the Five Fleets, and see what's going on. So I got an email this morning with the turn and a battle walkthrough as to how the battle went down. So I will be sharing that with you. I'm just going to take a quick look to see how this looks. All right, I'll have to move my head, but I've got it all cut and pasted in a Word document. You'll be able to see it there in a moment. So let's scroll down and zoom in and see where this battle took place. All right, I'm going to guess that it took place around here. Let me just ever so quickly check, because in the email I was told where it took place. Okay, so the Battle of the Five Armies, as our GM was framing it, was in Papa 23. Papa 23 is this hex right here. Now you can see currently, what do we see? We see Fox Skulk, and we'll see what that fleet is in a moment. We see a Y-era bombardment cruiser, a YCC, and a Vol. Those are the current ships in that hex. There's a crippled YFF there, which is interesting. I'm wondering why a crippled YFF is still there. Interesting. Okay, let's pull up the Carnarvon real quick just to see that Fox Skulk fleet. Okay, whoop, put that over my head. So we can see here that there is a YCC, 2 CAs, 2, and of course there's another. So there's a third drone bombardment cruiser there. They're 4-5 cruisers, so those are pretty decent. Commando cruiser, a drone bombardment destroyer, and two YFFs. So certainly not nothing, right? I mean, it's a fairly decent and significant fleet. What's on the other side? So we can see here there's a... let me just take away the ships. Is it done? Aha! So there's a YBS that is complete. There is a tug that is there, a crippled YFF, Columbia and Justice Fleet, and 4 other frigates. So let's pull up Riemann Columbia Fleet. Whoop. And Justice. So ISC, where are you? ISC, named echelons, and here we go. I'll put that over here just so it's kind of out of the way a little bit. Incidentally, I realize that we're jumping into the 5 armies right away. I will go over EP and fleet cap once we finish going over this battle, but seeing as this is the headline, might as well jump in right away. Give you what you want, give you what you need. I'm all about getting you that fix, hopefully. All right, so let's see here. We've got Justice Fleet. Justice, where are you? Yeah, Justice is just 2 YDDs, no big deal. Okay, so 2 YDDs, 4 FFs. So really just 6 ships and 2 cripples. 1 YFF was sort of left in situ in Papa 22, and then there's 1 at the base. Now, Columbia Fleet still has, as I'm scratching myself, I apologize, we've got 6 frigates, 2 of them crippled, so a total of 8. an F4. F4. Yeah, okay, sorry. I'm having a senior's moment here. F4, which is the destroyer, and a D4. Interesting. Okay. So, before I dive into what was in the battle, what just happened? So we had a fleet in the previous turn, if you remember, in that live stream. And if you don't, and I can understand, there's a lot of information flying here. Feel free to go back and check out that video in the early stages. As we're doing today, we covered what was going on along the border between the four powers war. Now, there is, of course, the base that was being built. As I take away the ships here, there was the base that was being built by the ISC, but there was also a base in Papa 23. Now we can see that that base is no longer there. And what's particularly interesting about that is even though the Hydrons have a 4 hex supply, you can see that, let's see, based on this planet being their closest point of supply, 1, 2, 3, 4, they can supply up to the border but nothing into it. Papa 23, which was right here, provided 1, 2, 3, 4. Basically, it provided supply just into ISC space. By popping that base, they are effectively creeping back the reach that the Hydrons have into ISC space. So why was that battle being fought? I'm assuming to be able to pop that base, and it looks like they did that. But let's get into the battle, and I'll move my head to the other side just so it's a little bit easier to be able to see what will be the battle. Okay, so hopefully this is, I'm going to try and zoom out a little bit here. Maybe it'll be easier. Okay, so the battle occurred in Papa 23, which was that hex we were just looking at. There were basically 4 fleets. Now, normally when you have multiple fleets in a battle, they can't all fight together. However, if you're in an alliance and there's a special set of rules in Federation and Empire, as published by ADB, that talk about alliances. And essentially, long story short, it makes it so that ships can fight on the same side. However, there are rules around who can be or who can have command or who supplies the command ship for that fight. And basically, the ally with the largest amount of ships provides the command ship. So you can't just have, like, for example, in this battle, you couldn't have the ISC provide a whole bunch of like 10 frigates and then the Romulans provide 1 command ship. That doesn't work. So there's a balance there. However, in this battle, you had relatively equal numbers of ships, and so how the battle line was organized will be interesting to see. And we'll have to see here how much detail our GM provides us. So on and the way it was broken down, just as a quick glance at it, the way it was broken down was northern and southern forces. So the northern forces are the ISC and the Romulans, and the southern forces are the Carnivon and the Hydrons. So the ISC brought to the fight 1 YCL, 3 YDDs, and 4 YFFs. The Romulans brought 2 KD4s, 2 KF4s. Now the D4s are the cruisers, the F4s are the destroyers, and then 8 of the frigates, which are the E2s. And lo and behold, what is this? An Orion ship, which somebody paid for, a YLR, which is a 3-3 ship. So the YLR is in the fight. This would seem to be the 5th of the 5 armies, or the 5 fleets, in this fight. So interesting. They paid to have an Orion, just one, in the fight with them. Interesting that it's only a YLR, but to be fair, YLR is better offensively than the FFs or the DDs on either side. So that's, well, they're equivalent to the KF4 when it comes to attack factors, but interesting nonetheless. So the Hydrons, what do the Hydrons got? The Hydrons have their YBS. They have a YCC, which is a 4-6 ship. They have a tug in that hex, 4 vols, and one additional vol that is crippled. The Carnivons had that big fleet which we saw, which was Fox Skulk, which has their YCC, 2 YCAs, 2 of those bombardment cruisers, which are the 4-5 ships, a commando cruiser, a drone bombardment destroyer, and 2 YFFs, and one of their prime teams identified here as a wolf team. So let's see the notes here. 1. The battle lasted 3 turns and was brutal. So says the GM. Interesting. The BUR, the battle intensity rating, for anyone who is interested on how combat works and who's watching this and saying, oh, what's going on, then please check out our combat tutorial in the playlist for New Worlds, and you will see and find how you how you conduct combat in Federation Empire. So battle intensity rating was 8. What's particularly interesting about that, or notable about that, is that heel nippers, which are the N that you see on the different ships from the Carnivon, heel nippers are only effective with burst 7 or above. So that means at this early stage of the game, the range of burr that you can have, the lowest you can have is 2, and the highest you can have is 4. If the defending ships, i.e. the Carnivons and the Hydrons, wanted to use heel nippers and they went to max burr 4, then the attacking force would have to be at minimum burr 2 in order to prevent them from using them, because then the total battle intensity rating would be 6, and you need 7 or above to be able to use heel nippers. Obviously, that wasn't the case here. They went 4 and 4, and they were able to use heel nippers. You'll see how useful those heel nippers are. What are heel nippers? Heel nippers are basically the ability to take 1 point of damage for every N that you have. So if you have 5 ships that have each an N, then that's 5 N factors, we'll call them, that you can apply. For every N that you have, you can apply 1 point of directed damage to a target. Directed damage at a 1-to-1 ratio. Normally, directed damage is done at 2-to-1 or 3-to-1. But heel nippers can be used to use it at 2-to-1. Now, the one thing about heel nippers that you cannot do, you cannot use heel nippers against a formation bonus target at 1-to-1. You might get, I'd have to look in the rules again, but I think you can't use it against formation bonus targets, period. Just like you can't use maulers, which is another similar type of special unit that is used by the Romulans and the Klingons and the Remans, by example. But maulers can't be used against a formation bonus target, just like heel nippers can't. However, you can pick other targets in the fleet to use heel nippers against. And again, it's 1-to-1 damage versus 2-to-1 damage, which is the normal default for directed damage. And you'll see how that plays out in the details here. Okay, brutal. Burr 8, heel nippers are in effect. Turn 1. So again, the North Fleet is the ISC and the Remans, and the South are the Hydrons and the Carnivons. Here we go. North rolls a 1. So these are the rolls that go to the battle table, or the table that is on that is in the rule set with regards to figuring out how much damage gets inflicted, and you can check that out again in the tutorial. North Fleet generates a total of 28. That's how much damage, total attack factors they bring to the table based on their fleet. The South has 37. So the difference of 9, and based on the rolls, what that translates into is 8 damage from the from the North and 12 from the South. 6 heel nippers means 6 directed points of damage. The North, with the 13 points of damage, inflicts damage on 1 KD4, and they cripple it with 6 directed damage, and then destroyed it with oh, interesting. Okay, so first of all, I'm assuming that this KD4 was not in formation bonus, and they did directed damage for all of it, meaning, so it's a 4-6 ship. When it's crippled, it goes to 2-3. So this worked perfectly. So with directed damage using heel nippers, they did a total of 6 damage to the KD4, which immediately cripples it. Then they do directed damage at 2-to-1 against the crippled target. And since there's 6 remaining, they do they do 3 damage, which destroys the target. So they, in one turn, they crippled and destroyed a cruiser from the Remans, which is the KD4+. Ouch. Now, just remind me, they started with 2 of them. So this one wasn't in formation bonus, so they targeted it and killed it. Wow. Okay. South damage, South Fleet did So North Fleet did 13 points of damage. What? That doesn't make sense. North damage, or I guess North is taking damage. They're allocating damage from the South, which is 13. I guess just the way it's written, it's a little confusing. South takes 8 points of damage, so that's the Carnivons and the Hydrons, and they're doing directed damage against the YBS. So what's interesting about that is that the YBS isn't automatically in formation bonus. You can put it in formation bonus if you want, but you don't have to. They chose, it would seem like they chose to put their command cruiser, which I'm assuming is the command ship, in formation bonus. So the base was on its own. Interesting. So they did directed damage against the base. They did 8 points of damage. So they did 4 points of damage total, which is the equivalent of one SIDS damage, which is sequential incremental damage system, which is just a way to be able to break down sort of damage chunks against things like bases, because they tend to have a lot of defense factors, and you need to be able to do so this incremental damage system. So that's what, or Starbase incremental damage system, that's what it's called. So that's SIDS. And so with 4 at 2 to 1, they were able to do 1 SIDS worth of damage. A YBS has 2 SIDS, each SID being 4 damage. So with a YBS being a 4/8 unit, they were able to do 4 points of damage of directed damage, which is 1 SID. So they were able to get half the way towards crippling it. My goodness. Okay. Turn 2. North does a total of, still has 28 total potential, and they inflict 11. 37 from the South, they inflict 13, and again, 6 heel nippers into effect. So, allocating the damage to the North, they took directed damage, 5 points of directed damage against the YCL, which, oh, okay. So they do, so it's a 4/5 ship, right? Oh, interesting. Okay, so it's a 4/5 ship. It took 5 damage, so it crippled it. They did 1 direct damage using the heel nipper, and then they used 4 points of damage at 2 to 1 against the YCL to destroy it. So I guess I don't know off the top of my head. I'm assuming they are a 2/3 ship when they are crippled. I will have to take a look. And so the 4 points of directed damage inflicted 2. And so with the 1 from the heel nippers, that's a total of 3 damage, ends up destroying it, and then 3 left over cripples a YFF. Woo! Gets a little complicated. Okay, South. South takes again damage, crippling their 1 YBS, because they inflicted a total of 11 points of damage. 8 of it was directed damage against the YBS for SIDS. The remainder was splashed onto a Vol, which got crippled. Turn 3. The North still has 28 points of total attack factors. The South has 35. Based on the rolls, they're both inflicting 12 damage on each other. It would seem as though if the North is taking 13 points of damage, maybe there was a plus-minus point. It's not indicated here in the notes that I got, but maybe there's a plus-minus point. Either way, KF4, which is a destroyer, it's a 3/4 ship. So 4 points of directed damage using the heel nippers cripples it. 2, it's a 4. Oh yeah, I guess so. Yeah, okay. So when the additional 2 of directed damage destroys it. So they destroyed the destroyer, ironically. And then 2 KE2s were crippled with the remaining damage that was left over. South takes 8 directed damage against the YBS. When it's crippled, it becomes a 2/4, and so that destroys it. So 2 rounds of directed damage took it from 1 SIDS to 2 SIDS, which cripples it, and then 1 last amount of SIDS, or 4 points of damage, destroys the YBS. So they destroy the YBS, they cripple a Vol, and cripple a YFF, and there's 2 minus points left over. So the attacking force, which is the ISC and the Remans, they retreat. Based on the fact that they destroyed the base, I'm assuming that was their objective. So they go in, they blow the base, and they pop out. There was obviously an attempt to pursue them, and I'm not sure why that failed, but it failed. I would expect that they would have had at least 6 ships to be able to pursue with, but I guess that just depends on how they write their orders. 6 was the pursuit roll. The pursuit failed. And so as a result, the ISC lost 1 YCL, 1 YDD, and it says croppled, but I think they meant crippled. So they lost a YCL. They crippled a DD, and they crippled an FF. The Remans lost a cruiser, which is the D4, a destroyer, the F4, and crippled 2 E2s. The Orions didn't lose anything. The Hydrons lost their base, crippled 2 Vols, and the Carnivons crippled a YFF. And according to the GM, that is a Hydran Carnivon victory. So, what do you think? What do you think about that? Okay. Cannot have formation bonus. Hey, look. Okay, let's jump into the chat. I can see there's already commentary going on here. All right. So let's jump into the chitty chat. Okay. So, oh my goodness. Okay, let's start with George Duffy. George. Jeez Louise. I need more coffee. Pardon me. George Duffy. The space lens has its eye on something. He says. Wait till you see the map. Soft focus for the aged. Well, I got to make sure my wrinkles don't show up. Bill, hey, George. Paul, should be the YFF should be on PP20. Okay, well, we'll see. We'll talk about that. Or shouldn't? Paul, shouldn't be on PP20? I don't know. We'll see. Bill says, hey, George, Daniel, and this is where we start getting into the rules. Rule 308.74. One of the great things about the rule set as published by ADB, and this comes from the military background. So in the military, a lot of our documentation is broken down in a very detailed way, so that if you're looking for a specific feature, function, paragraph, whatever, it's broken down by number often. So you can go to, section 308 in this case, paragraph 74 kind of thing, or part 74. And so it's very easy to find rules in the ADB system, because I can quote you the number and you can go find the number. It's very easy to find. It is a huge document, but once you can identify the number, it's very easy to go find them. So, and they're broken down thematically into these numbered sections. So it's quite easy to digest from that perspective, easy to search. So bases cannot have formation bonus. So as in accordance with that rule, you can't put a base in formation bonus, which is why oftentimes it can be of advantage for the defending force to engage in the combat tutorial. For example, we talk about how every time you approach a base-like, and there's a number of units and how they're being used that act like bases. In this case, it is a base, a YBS. So when you approach a YBS, you have to offer an approach battle. For a defending unit, the approach battle is an opportunity to be able to whittle down or destroy your attacking force before they get to your base, which in this case, for example, they're looking to destroy. So that's good. Also, another option or way to sort of defend your base is to pin those ships before they get to you. So as they approach your base, when we talk about reaction movement, again, another tutorial in that playlist that you can find, your ships can move out and engage those targets before they reach the base to pin them or prevent them from getting to the base and attack them there. You don't even have to have a full, bloody brawl. You can just go out there, have one round of combat, retreat, and prevent them from attacking your base. So there's a lot of ways to be able to do this, but nonetheless, exciting and fun. So a 6 is always a failure on a pursuit roll, regardless of the numbers. Okay, so there you go. I didn't know that little detail on the pursuit roll. We lost, not Paul is laughing his head off. So thank you very much, everybody. I'm just noticing now that we are now in the double digits for concurrent viewers. So thank you, everybody, for joining us here live. So this battle, this specific battle for the ISC and the Remans, as Paul is laughing, his whole purpose, or their whole purpose for going in, was to be able to destroy the base. And the Carnivon, the Hydrons, just the way the battle went down, they fought a fight, or they fought a battle, and they were able to they were able to inflict damage. But the whole point was, if you're taking out these supply points, these supply nodes, the reach that goes into Hydran and ISC, or sorry, ISC and Riemann space, that is sort of like, that's the game. It's all about logistics and supply and being able to actually get to and target your enemies. So we will go back to the map in a moment to be able to get more detail on how the rest of the battles and the conflict and the setup is going. But before I do, there's an interesting change in the dynamic between the Hydrons and the ISC. George Duffy, technically aggressor retreated, but their mission was a success. Exactly, in the sense that you achieved your objective and then you left. So you didn't win the battle in the sense you didn't hold the ground, but that was never the intent anyway. So it's all about mission success. What was the mission? Mission success was, as they defined it, to be able to take out that target. So there's an interesting thing that goes on, that is going on rather, with the Hydrons. So there is, well, I'll just put it this way. There was a communique that was put out from the Hydrons, from the role-playing aspect, and I will read it to you, and you tell me what you think. So, as I received it, I received it in an email this morning to make sure that I saw it. So, subject: peace terms. Dun dun dun. Greetings. I am Gentinax. I can make a joke about that, but we'll keep it PG for now. I am Gentinax. You will not have heard of me before now. I am the new ruler of the Hydrax theocracy. I send you this message to ask what terms you want to negotiate for peace to resume between our peoples. The stance of my predecessor is not my stance. That is all. Okay. So, if you are part of our Discord channel, you can check out our story narrative thread that in it has some story elements that go on. I yesterday remember seeing, and I'd have to go back and check it out, but I remember seeing something about something happening with the Hydrons. It would seem, based on that message, that there has been some kind of change in government, shall we say, with the Hydrons, and they are approaching the ISC Riemann alliance with a conciliatory tone. Why are they doing that? Well, let's go to the map and find out. All right. Let's look at the map here real quick. So before I finish going, I'll finish going over the border here, and then we'll go over fleet cap and EP, and then we'll do around the clock. We'll just finish this headline item and then go from there. Okay, so we talked about this side of the map here, which is the battle at Papa 23 and the loss of the YBS. Now, what else can we see? As we go across, we can see that there's Second Fleet. We can see that if we took away the ships real quick, we can see this base is also completed, right? So we have Law Fleet, 2 tugs right here. We have a couple YDDs here, which is interesting. This, if this base is completed, this this resource should be belonging to, unless they're for some reason not taking it, this should be belonging to the ISC, as it would be part of their supply network and part of their economy. So yeah, interesting. We'll have to see that. So I'm assuming this resource here should be an ISC resource. You can let me know. Okay, so let's take a look at second, and then the rest of the stack that's there. We'll pull up the echelon, and we'll just we'll put that there for now, and then we'll pull up ISC second and see what's going on here. Okay. So second is basically in a position to be able to protect supply, maybe? I'm not sure what second's doing exactly. Maybe they moved to be able to engage these dreadnoughts, not sure. We shall see. But second fleet is 1 YCL and 4 DDs. So nothing too crazy, but more than enough to be able to deal with an errand or just like a random YDN. Interesting that these DNs are still doing what they're doing. Okay, let's get rid of second fleet. It's just noise at this point. And let's focus on the stack that's on this hex here. So this is XX22. For context, 1, 2, 3, 4 hexes to the Hydran homeworld. Those ships, whatever ships they are, we'll go over them in a second, are within movement range, operational movement range of the Hydran capital, which means they could attack, assault, potentially destroy the Hydran capital. And with the way that the rules have been used at this point in this particular game, with the extended supply provided by the YTG, which is also in that hex, they would be able to capture and fully take the Hydran capital if they're able to take it. So let's take a look at what ships are at his disposal. There's third fleet, so let me just pull up third fleet as well. Third fleet. Okay, I'll put that over my head. Okay, so we have, oh my goodness, what do we got? We got Truth, Integrity, Enforcement. Let's start with that. Truth, YCC, YCA, YCL. Oh my God. 2 commando cruisers, 4 DDs, and 2 marshal teams. So that's not nothing on its own. Integrity fleet. Integrity is a YCA and 2 YCLs. Enforcement fleet is a stack of 6 YCLs. Oh my God. So that's already 8 YCLs just on those first 3. Providence is a DN, a CA, and 4. So now we're at 12 YCCs, just the CCs alone. Judgment fleet, a CL, DD, and a DN. So 2 DNs and now 13 CLs. And then Order is a CC and 4. 13. Okay, so it's 17, not counting the other ships. 17 CLs, which are 4 or 5 ships, 2 DDs, a number of cruisers and YCCs. And then, of course, there's this third fleet, which is also 2 YCLs, which would, oh, geez, I lost, the math is gone now. What were we at? 13 plus the 6, so 19. So now we're in double digits for the YCLs, and then we have for the DDs, which are nothing ships, they're 3 4s, 5, what do we got? 9 double digits now, 12, 13. Like we're dealing with like 30 ships, half of them being YCLs, which are 4 or 5 ships. So this fleet is currently in a position to be able to move on the the Hydran capital system. Let's take a look at what they've got. So first of all, let's pull up the Hydran capital. So every capital system has more than 1 planet in it. And so you can see here they have their home planet, which provides them 10 EP. If you were to capture it as another player, it only provides you 5. But I believe so, unless there's a change in that from the DM. DM, you let me know. But theoretically, if you capture another person's capital, it will provide you 5 EP as a major planet, not 10 as a capital. Then there's the minor planet, which is 3, and the Hydrant planet, which is a developing planet, which is 2. So theoretically, at maximum economic output, not including the Happiness Plus, these 3 planets could provide 10 EP, an additional 10 EP to the IC. They would provide 4 or 5. I can't remember. I'd have to look it up. Whether a major planet, 5 normally, provides you 3 when devastated or 2 when devastated. I think it's 3. If it provides 3, then that means at 50%, basically, that system would provide an automatic 5 EP if they took it. but once it's fully recovered, it would provide a total of 10. When you attack a capital system, there's a whole set of rules around that. And basically what ends up happening is that the attacker effectively has the advantage versus the defender. However, the defender splits their forces amongst, they basically take their fleet, they divide it in half. One half gets evenly split amongst the 3 planets in the multi-system defense here. And then the other fleet is a floater fleet, we'll call it, that can move to wherever it wants to go. The attacking fleet can then pick wherever they want to attack, which kind of sucks for the defender. And yeah, it's a bit of a pain. However, you got to take the whole system to take the hex. You can't just take one planet at a time. You can devastate one planet at a time, but you can't take one planet at a time. You got to take the whole thing if you're going to take it. So from a defensive perspective, you can fight elements of the battle in sort of this fighting retreat within one system. It can be, depending on your perspective, that can be of advantage to the defender or the attacker. I feel like the attacker's got the advantage in this scenario. So, but regardless, there's a set of rules around it specifically, and it's a little more complicated than your normal fight. If and when we see a capital system assault next turn, then we'll go into detail around those rules, and we'll walk you through the actual combat as it occurs. So, however, let's just take a look at what they have. On the home planet, they have... What? The number must be wrong. Okay, so I'm looking at 6, I think. 6 different... Is that what I'm looking at? Yeah, 6. So 6 planetary ground bases. Why is that important? That provides 6 EW, which will provide a 2 EW shift, plus they have the base. And then a 6 attack and 12 defense. So those particular units make things difficult for the attacker. And then, of course, there's whatever fleet they've got in that hex. So they've got Expeditionary and the Old Colony Squadron. So the Old Colony Squadron, I know, unless they've changed it, is the 3 Musketeers from the very beginning of the game. These are W-era frigates, relatively crappy. So not anything that's going to stop an assault. And then there's the Expeditionary Fleet, which is this. So what's interesting about this, crippled ships, right? Let's just look at the non-crippled ships. You've got 2 YCCs, a DN, 1 Vol, and a couple of Triad teams. So I think it's fair to say that barring some kind of major shift, and assuming, and this is assuming, and we'll do this in the EP calculation in a second, assuming that the ISC go first, Hydrax is going to fall. If the ISC choose to attack. If the ISC choose to attack, then Hydrax will fall, because that fleet is so big, I don't see there being a way to stop them. The only thing is that this home fleet and iron fleet, they're sitting on a YBS. So what they could do is they could move and pin some ships as they're coming. But let's take a look at what that is. Iron and home fleet. So Hydran. Oh, dear. Okay. Let's take a look here. Iron. Is iron in there? Iron fleet. So we've got 3 ships, a DD and 2 Vols. Okay. And home fleet, which is... Oh, okay. This is a little bit more substantive. Let's put that down there. It is a total of 5 YCCs, 6 Vols, 7 Vols. So 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 ships. So those 15 ships could move to pin. Oh, and there's First Fleet here. First Fleet could also be involved here. Let's just take a look at First Fleet. So First Fleet. Okay. Whoops. Whoop. Okay. So that's another three ships. So there are a total of, what do we say, 15? So 18. There's a total of 18 ships currently. non-crippled ships that are within extended or within reaction range that could move to pin this fleet coming in, because this fleet they're Y ships. They only move 4 hexes at a time, and they got to go a straight line to the capital if they're going to attack the capital. If that's the case, then if they move in a straight line, then all the ships that are currently positioned here, so that was a total of, well, all those ships could move to pin elements of the ISC fleet that would be attacking. Also, there's a couple of other 2 vols, a YCC, and a tug. There's also this tug and 2 vols here that could also, with extended reaction range, move to be able to support the home system. Oh goodness. Okay, so there's a bunch of stuff there that's going on. So I don't know that the Hydrons could stop the attack. They could deter the attack by pinning some of those ships, but it would be an interesting dynamic to see when you do the high fidelity math calculation on how many ships are attacking and not. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that with 30 plus ships that the ISC have to attack with, and approximately 15 plus ships that the Hydrons have to defend with, it's very unlikely that the Hydrons are going to be able to effectively defend or pin all the ships attacking. And based on what's in the capital system, I don't know that. We'll have to see. I don't know if they're going to be able to pull it off. Granted, bases are bases, and they do wonderful things as far as like they're hard targets to take out. And the planetary ground bases do really become a pain in the butt. So it's just a matter of like, how is that all going to work when it comes to pinning ships and various other things? We'll have to see. Yeah, we'll have to see. And also there's how the ISC are going to move. Are they going to move in a sequence that will draw out pinning in such an order that they'll be able to get past it? Oh, there's so much there. There is so much there to go. And as I'm looking at things, I'm seeing a couple of other interesting notes that are going to make things interesting. Yeah. Okay. Victor 26. Yeah. Okay. All right. George Duffy, no fair. This was Let's Pick on Jim Day. Yeah, it's not so much Let's Pick on Jim Day, to be fair. This is a pot that's been stirred, a bed that's been made, and it is what it is. Now, to be fair, this is a war game. And in all war games, there are going to be players that lose at some point or get taken out at some point. That is the nature of a war game. So, Jim's a big boy, and he can handle this. Now, there's a bunch of different ways that this scenario can go down. As we've seen, there has been an olive branch extended from the Hydrons to say peace. Now, I don't know how the ISC will or won't engage in a dialogue to be able to sort peace out. Maybe there's an advantage to be able to come into peace. For example, even though they take the home system, the war's not over. The Hydrons still can fight. They still have lots of ships. They still have their Carnivon allies. They're going to remain at war for a prolonged period of time, the ISC, as they fight this battle with the Carnivon and the Hydrons. So there's going to be a continued state of war for a long time. Now, these two factions have been at war for a very long time. And in this game, once you reach and exceed 20 turns at war, you start incurring economic penalties. So the question is there a financial incentive to go to peace? I would argue, and I don't know the exact number of how many war turns they're in, but they're getting close to 20. So is there an opportunity here to go to peace and sort of make a deal that works for both sides? The Hydrons stay in the game, so to speak. Maybe they lose a little something, because I mean, they're on the losing foot at this point, or on the back foot. So what is the compromise? What is the deal that is struck? How do they negotiate an outcome that works for both sides? And how do they start recovering those war turns, by example? Or maybe the ISC say, nope, it's not worth it to us to do that. We're going to take your capital, and that'll compensate us for the war turns, essentially. And then we'll negotiate at that point. Who knows? But there is a path forward here to be able to get to a positive outcome when it comes to peace. Again, of course, they could just storm the capital, so to speak, and see how that goes. We'll see as this game evolves. Who knows? But from from the perspective here, if the capital is assaulted and if it's taken, how is that going to change things? We're going to change. We're going to have a conversation about that in a moment. But let's go back to the map real quick and discuss our EP and fleet cap numbers, because, oh boy, it's going to get exciting. Okay. Okay, so let's start with EP. The Carnivon are at a big 45. Now, again, I'm just going to scroll over here real quick and point out that, oh, you can't see it. I'll move my head. Let's move my head over here. So the Carnivon planet is still here in the Federation territory. So they haven't officially been absorbed into the they haven't been absorbed into the Federation yet. So that 45 is really 44. So that's what that looks like. The Federation is at 39. The Gorn are at 41. Now, I want to say, weren't they at 40.5? I want to say they were. So we'll have to check out and see how that changed. The Hydrons are at 42. Interesting that they're at 42 despite everything else that's going on. Their economy has sort of like taken a hit, but they're at 42. The ISC, 36.5. Very interesting. Of course, 36.5. Depending on what happens in the next couple turns, there'll be an opportunity to change that number. The Klingons are at 45. I'll have to check that out. The Kzinti are at, or the Kzinti, those are a minor faction. The Lyrans are at 39.5. The Remans also 39.5. Romulans 37, and the Tholians, starting to get into their stride, are at 48. God. Oh, okay. All right, let's look at the fleet cap. So the numbers of ships that they have. The Carnivons have a total of 70 ships. They're starting to pump out more. Now, what's interesting to note is, as of this turn, because they were in combat and because there are still targets within their effective range, they are now at war status. So they have their full economy at their disposal, and I imagine they're going to be building ships, lots of them. So you're going to get to see the Carnivon fleet start to swell in the coming turns. So the Carnivons are at 70 total ships with a 176-310 split. That is significant. The Federation is at 59 with 143-232. The Gorn, 38 total ships, so not much change on their side. 79-160. The Hydrons have a total of 74 ships, so the Carnivons and the Hydrons together have 144. Interesting number. 144 ships with a 167-282 split. Interesting to note that even though the Hydrons have more ships than the Carnivons have more attack potential, both attack and defense, than the Hydrons. The ISC still ruling, still hitting. Oh man, and the Remans. Okay, so the ISC are still big with 89 total ships, 270 with their attack factors, and 390. The Klingons staying steady at 54 with a 139-219 split. The Lyrans, 57 ships. They're starting to creep up there at 130-261, 130 attack, 261 defense. The Remans getting close to 3 digits at 94 ships total with a 268-347. Interesting to note, a few less ships than the ISC, but the ISC now have the biggest total attack and defense factors in the game. Interesting to note. The Romulans have a total of 48 ships with 131-208, and the Tholians also 48 ships, 72-189. So what are we seeing here with this kind of dynamic of EP and fleet? Ironically, the biggest economies, for the most part, have the smaller fleets. The biggest military powers in the game have slightly smaller economies. For example, the ISC have the biggest, between the Remans and the ISC, the biggest, most powerful fleets in the game. And the Remans are at 39.5, below 40. The ISC are 36.5, below 40. Both of those economies are significantly below the threshold of 40, which the Hydrons are at 42, and the Carnarvon are at 44. Both of those economies are bigger than theirs, and so that's interesting to note. You've got the Tholians, which is the biggest economy in the game at 48. They have the smallest fleet. Interesting. So there's this imbalance, maybe, between the factions that are doing well economically in the game and the factions that are doing well, arguably, militarily in the game. So it's a weird dichotomy. What works best? How do you want to play that? I don't know. Very, very interesting. All right, let's round out our discussion on the Hydrons, and we'll go clockwise from the Hydrons into the Carnarvon and around the clock, and we'll finish off with the ISC and the Remans today. So we know we've talked about what's going on in the upper area, the border area with the ISC, and we've seen the major battle of the 5 fleets. We've talked about the impending doom and the threat upon the Hydran capital. But what other exciting and troubling problems are the Hydrons dealing with? Well, not only do we have our fun space lens, which is the bug that we can see here, but we have a random. Now, I don't know if this is a typo from the GM, but there's a Juggernaut cruiser that's just popped up out of nowhere. Now, I don't know if this is a counter that's supposed to represent something else. Maybe it is a Juggernaut ship, and the wormhole just, for whatever reason, is a typo. Daniel, let me know what's going on with regards to this random Juggernaut. Let me know. But either way, there is a random ship that is a 12 attack, 12 defense, straight up mauler. A mauler is that little plus sign that you can see on the unit. It has the ability to do directed 1-to-1 damage like the heel nippers we were talking about, except the total value of its attack factors are 1-to-1. Again, it can't target formation bonus units, but nonetheless, it's a 1-to-1 unit. So very interesting. Okay, so where the heck did that thing come from? And the fact that the Hydrons not only have the space lens, but they have the Juggernauts now. Oh my goodness. And the question about this Juggernaut ship is it going to move 1 hex at a time, or is it going to move more? I don't know. Interesting. But nonetheless, 2 big problems in Hydran space above and beyond the war that they're fighting. Oh goodness. Oh gracious me. Let's use this opportunity to sort of tuck into the issues with the Carnarvon. So what can we see here? We got a YDD with 2 FFs and a drone bombardment ship. We've got 2 FFs. I'm curious. Let's take away the ships real quick. What's going on with the base infrastructure? I mean, now that you've got war economy for the Carnarvon player, Terry, are you going to build out those bases and sort of like get your supply lines up towards the IC border? How is that going to work? You going to do that? You certainly got the economy for it now, and you've got the convoys, well, at least one convoy in position. You could start doing that. That could be a really, I would think, productive way to be able to build up the supply and really put the fight to the IC. Also, an interesting option here for the Carnarvons, if there was a way to get peace with the ISC, arguably, the Carnarvon could maintain a war with the ISC. Now, I don't know whatever the negotiations would have to be between Hydrons and ISC to sort that out, but effectively, you could have the Carnarvons continuing to prosecute a war against the ISC, keeping the ISC at war status while the Hydrons potentially were at peace. That could work the same way with the Remans going through ISC space and the ISC going to peace with the Hydrons and so on and so forth. So maybe the Remans and the Carnarvons are at war. Oh, there's so many options here. So many options. But fundamentally, if the war or the battles are being fought in Hydran space, then that is a war. The Hydrons have to be at war status, without being in an alliance. And if the battles are taking place in Hydran space, in ISC space, then the ISC has to be at war as well. So I mean, there's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But nonetheless, this conflict could continue in many, many ways. Even if one of these powers did fall, the other could maintain and continue the fight without a doubt. So as we go back and we head down towards the border here, what do we got? We've got exploration ships continuing to explore along the border with the Hydrons from the Carnivons. We've got still home fleet. Let's look at home. That's the fleet that's guarding this major wormhole, which is the wormhole that the Lyrans could potentially come through. And home fleet, well, let me see. We've got 4 frigates, 2 destroyers, 2 drone bombardment destroyers, 2 cruisers, a drone bombardment cruiser, a YCC, and a YDN. So definitely not a small fleet, and more than enough to be able to sort of be a roadblock or stopper to whatever would be coming through that wormhole. Additionally, what else we got? We got Tug, another DN, CL, and a YFF, all built on the homeworld for the Carnivon. We've got a CL and a YFF on the border here with the... Oh, and they discovered a resource there. Okay. What do we got? Coyote Band. Coyote Band. Coyote Band. So we've got... oh, was that the fleet that was there? No, that's Wolfpack. Okay, so a CA, drone bombardment destroyer, and 2 frigates. I'm assuming they're moving to sort of support the YDK here with this YCL and YFF. You've got the Wolfpack, which is, I'm assuming, the exact same fleet that was there before. Oh, yes, but they've added to it. So you've got 3 destroyers, 3 frigates, a drone bombardment cruiser, and a drone bombardment destroyer. So a little bit more robust over top of the planet. And interesting. Okay. So a little bit more substantial there, which is interesting to see. And then, of course, their exploration cruiser here is continue to explore along the border. We had a quick email back and forth, the Carnivon player and I, and we were copacetic with that. So they're continuing to explore the border. That was their bump in economy. They discovered a new resource there. And what else we got here? We got... looks like Kresh is going to be... We're getting close to the 98 years, so we're getting closer to that. That'll be good. Denfleet, looks like they popped that Orion base that was up in the top. So let's just take a quick look at how much damage they did or didn't take. Looks like they lost they crippled a couple frigates. Other than that, the main fleet is still there with the DN, the CC, 2 CAs, drone bombardment destroyer, and 2 frigates. So this is kind of like what looks like their standard layout for their fleets, which is good. I expect Denfleet will probably make its way back to our border area to kind of keep things copacetic. First Reserve, which I believe is a exploration fleet. First Reserve. Yeah, so we got a exploration freighter with an escort. There's another exploration freighter there, so 2 in the same hex, which is interesting, and all that going on there. All right. From the not much else to go on with regards to the Carnivon. They're continuing their support for the Hydrons. They're now at a war state economy, and continuing to push that stuff forward. They are what they are. They are the Carnivon. Okay, so what else we got here? We've got on the Klingon side. So we've got the swap happening over on the border with the Romulans, the R&D swap. We had talked about it before. It just took a little while for me to get my exploration or my R&D team there. They are now in position. So they are there. They're going to swap back and forth. The Klingon R&D team will go to the Romulan homeworld. The Romulan R&D team will be transported to the Klingon homeworld, and then we'll be able to start on some R&D stuff, which is good. Other than that, what else we got? Let's take away the ships real quick. I don't see... Where did we discover a resource? Oh, it looks like we discovered a resource up here in India 40. So that's how we got a little peek there. We can also see that we take away the ships are starting slowly but surely to eat away at this fog of war business that's going on here. So slowly but surely eating that away, which is good. And then of course continue to explore up in this area as well. So nothing too exciting from the Klingon side. Again, continuing to our 5-year mission to explore strange new worlds, seek out new life and civilizations, and to boldly conquer and destroy all those folks that we come across. You can see there's a base being constructed up here, just continuing the sort of like the supply and reach for ships to continue their exploration, and so on and so forth, and so on and so on and so on. So nothing too exciting from the Klingon side. That's all I have to say about that. Oh, I'm realizing that as I'm scrolling, my head is probably in the wrong spot. Let me move my head. All right, let's do that again. So you can see here there is the exploration of this fog of war area that we're trying to get rid of. We have a new base that's being constructed up here to explore or continue the reach into the north, because again, 5-year mission. We have, what was it? Oh yeah, there was a new resource that's discovered right here, and continuing our 5-year mission to explore strange new worlds, and so on and so forth. All right, let's move on into the Romulans. What's interesting about the Romulans is, as we talked about before, they were kind of at the edge of their supply range, and you can see they're starting to build a base here to be able to continue their push up this way. All their exploration fleets are pushing and getting into close proximity with the Gorn along their border here, or their shared area here, which is, again, just part of the continued exploration push from the Romulans. What else we got? Let's take away ships real quick. No new resources really discovered there. We can see that, again, building a new base up in X-Ray 39. The confluence of ships down here, let's just take a look. Okay, so they finished building this base. They were going to provide extended supply, or maybe build a base here to be able to extend their reach down here. Again, all these fleets just continuing to explore down and down and down and down, which is good. So that's exciting. Interesting. So really, the Romulans are continuing to conduct their exploration, sort of in lockstep with what the Klingons are doing, although to be fair, the Romulans are doing a much better job at it. We can see that the 19th Legion has a wormhole down here. Now, that was if memory serves, that was a wormhole that was already discovered. But what's interesting about their space, particularly, 1, 2, 3 wormholes, and no one's gone through them. What's going on? Very, very interesting. I'm very sort of curious as to what's going on there. We know that the Romulans have an attitude, a tolerance, a position where they do not want anyone going through wormholes because it will attract the attention of the juggernauts. So very interesting to see that they have so many wormholes in their space. They could use that to their advantage at some point, but they're philosophically choosing not to. So very interesting to see how that's sort of mapping out. Oh my goodness, there's so much going on in the chat. Let me, I'm going to go over to the Gorn and polish off the Gorn here as we check in with them, and then I'll go back to the chat and check in on how everybody is doing. All right, let's check out the Gorn. So what do we got here? Let's just do a quick snap and look at, I'm doing this to be able to see if they've come across any new resources. We can see that there's nothing significant from a resource perspective that they've discovered. Their economy hasn't changed. But they're slowly, you can see the YSR here, they're slowly pushing up into the northeast. How they're going to interact with the Romulans will be interesting to note and see. Will there be conflict there? Hopefully not, because that'll force me to get involved based on our mutual defense pact. Incidentally, we have a mutual defense pact where if any one of the 3, Gorn, Romulan, or Klingon, starts getting pissy with the other one, then the other neighbor not involved will get involved in against the aggressor. So if the Romulans start picking a fight with the Gorn, the Klingons will jump in on the Gorn side, or vice versa. If the Gorn pick a fight with the Romulans, I'll jump in on the Romulan side, and that works the same way for any of the other factions involved. So that's sort of our current policy, our current treaty in place, and so we'll see how that goes. Hopefully these guys can play nice, which I'm sure they will, and they'll sort something out with regards to this area here. Maybe they just will explore it without actually setting up a border. That would be strange and interesting. Who knows? But you can see the Gorn are pushing between their YSR here, and then various efforts to build out supply and push them going this way. Obviously, they have a colony here, which extends their supply at least 3 hexes. Maybe they have 4. Who knows? Supply 4, that is. So they can extend at least up into this area here. So their supply is good. The question is, will they be able to explore and reach faster than the Romulans? Who knows? Other than that, what else we got? The Tholians are continuing to be a point of concern. Well, before I jump in on the Tholians, let me, as I said, get back to the chat and check in with all of you in the chat. Okay. All right, so let's see. Oh, my goodness gracious. So much chatting. Okay. Let's start with Bill. Num, said the big hungry juggernaut and Space Lens and the Orion landlords. Chuck, where did the Hydrons post this peace attempt? I believe it was a direct. I don't know that it's in the narrative. It might just be a direct message from the Hydrons to the ISC and the Remans. So it might be a direct one-to-one communication. It may not be public, other than me reading it. It was sent to me specifically so I could share it on the stream today. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. Jim, extended war is always bad. Short, fast wars, even in later periods, are the normal way of playing. We'll see. Economic exhaustion as a strategy can work. It just depends on the disposition of your economy, how that all works out for you, and are you driving somebody else into economic exhaustion versus putting yourself into it, and how will that play out? Who knows? George Duffy, I was referring to the roaming Space Lens and the Juggy CA that just showed up, all on top of said 5-fleet battle. Yes, yeah. So I don't know what's going on with the Jug, but I have to ask Daniel. I'm sure somewhere later in the chat here, Daniel mentions it. But yeah, what's going on with that Juggernaut? I don't see an artificial wormhole or something. What's going on? Like, where'd that come from? Or maybe they're closer than we thought. I don't know. It's very strange. Okay. Chuck, every Hydran planet needs to be burned down to the bedrock. Okay, so we know where Chuck stands on eliminating the Hydran player from the game. Fair enough. Soon to be a 7-way gunfight. Headaches everywhere, Jim says. Daniel, it is indeed a Juggernaut CA just wandering around Hydran space. Lovely. That's good. It's always nice to, like, walk around the neighborhood and see how everybody's doing, Yeah, it's good. It's good. Eugene, if Hydrons lose capital, will the Liberator gain any of their tech progress? No. What else might they get if the Hydrons lose their capital? What becomes of their offerings? Will economy splinter? Okay, so to be fair, I have never, ever played a game. I shouldn't say that. In the first game that happened to me. Okay, I've never, beyond the first game that I played, I've never played a game where the capital fell. Ironically, in the first game that I played, my capital fell. So take it as you will. This campaign is different than those. So we'll have to talk to Daniel about what kind of tech boost the Conquering player would or wouldn't get. I think fundamentally, if there was going to be a tech boost, so fundamentally right now, the answer is no. There is no benefit from a tech perspective in that way. However, if there was going to be one, the other player would have to be advanced. Let's say, for example, the Hydrons just discovered M-Tech, by example, and the ISC came in and took their homeworld. If that was the case, I could see there being an argument for the ISC getting a boost to their M-Tech to some degree, or whatever technologies they had sort of had accomplished a greater milestone in, But as far as it is right now, there's no exchanging of technologies. There's no functional way to do that in the game. However, haven't seen a capital conquered in a long time. So who knows? excuse me, we will have to see. But will their economy fracture? I don't know. So assuming that the player continues playing their faction and doesn't just up and surrender, if they were to surrender, for example, to the ISC and effectively evaporate as a faction, then we'd have to see. Yeah, would the GM take over playing there have been games in the past where a player has sort of thrown up their hands and picked up their toys and walked away. And in those instances, the GM of those campaigns ended up sort of playing out that faction for the remainder of that game. I don't know that that would happen here. We'd have to discuss it. If Jim, by example, as the Hydrons was taken out, how would he want to play that out? I know that in my game, when I played it, and my capital was taken out and I was eliminated, I maintained a tug and a small group of ships, and I went off into the fog of war, and I was trying to find a way to survive. I continued to play. Will that be the case here? I don't know. We'll have to see how this goes. But like I say, it's an evolving new scenario. We've never kind of done this in this way before. So we'll have to see how this goes. Bill, Kearney Southern Border looking light. I don't know. I mean, relative to the other ships they have, but I mean, the Carnarvon fleet is not small. I mean, they have 70 ships, 70 ships. That's a good 16 more than the Klingons have, and you know, it's not nothing. And they got a bunch of dreadnoughts and all that kind of stuff. They're not, I mean, basically, don't pick a fight with the Carnarvons. They are not a pushover. That's just my opinion. Okay. Did Denfleet take out the pirate to show that they are not impotent after being chased away by the legendary E1 captain? Eugene, man, you should be my my press agent here. I love it. Who knows? I mean, if a Klingon E1 can chase away an entire fleet of Carnarvon ships, then who knows? Maybe that's just the way the Carnarvons see Klingons. They're scared of us. They know how potent and powerful we can be. They know how capable the captains of the Klingon Empire can be, and you know what kind of fight we bring to any battle. So who knows? Who knows? Maybe that is the case. I have no idea. We'll have to see how this evolves going forward. That being said, not looking to pick a fight with the Carnarvons just yet. Thank you very much. Can Klingons? Maybe so, Eugene. Yeah, we'll see. Can Klingons use additional cruisers, more than one per hex, to increase exploration? What would each ship have a chance to explore? If not, can some of these cruisers be converted? Okay, so in this game, we have a limit on the number of exploration cruisers and or big ships you can have. So fundamentally, you have a limit of 3 small exploration freighters and 3 large exploration freighters or survey cruisers. So basically what that means is that there is a limit to the number of exploration ships you can have at any one time. Now, why is that the case? That's a good question. That was a rule that was introduced much earlier in other campaigns, and I don't know why. Obviously, exploration cruisers, well, you may not know this, so exploration cruisers are very expensive. They cost about 10 EP a piece. Not to mention the prime teams that are 3 EP to build to put on them. So they are expensive units. And I think the idea is that there's a limit to the number of exploration cruisers that are out there, so that is why there is a limit on that. But fundamentally, I guess there's no argument as to why you could limit the number of exploration cruisers. But the reason why, for example, the Klingons are throwing out all these cruisers is because the size of the ship has an impact on its ability to successfully explore. It's a 1d6. And in the Y era, you get a -2 on your sensors, which goes away once you get M-Tech. Cruisers at size class 3, I believe, have a +1, or maybe it's a 0. I can't remember. I'd have to go check it out. But either way, there is out of a 1d6, there is a spectrum there. The smaller the ship, the more the penalty is to explore. The bigger the ship, the less of a penalty there is to explore. Obviously, if you have a dreadnought or anything bigger, that is the best as far as size. And then, of course, you have things like exploration, large exploration freighters, and survey cruisers, which get in themselves a +2 to explore. So, yeah, we'll have to see how that goes. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this goes forward. But right now you have a limit of 3 exploration cruisers, which is why you see that on the map. No one faction has more than 3 large exploration freighters and or survey cruisers at one time. Okay. Hopefully that answers your question, Eugene. Jim, only one ship can explore in any one fog text. Yeah, so you only have the benefit of one ship exploring a fog text at a time. You can't stack them and get like an added benefit. Only Lyrans can technically have 4. I think Chuck is just joking. George Duffy, Daniel, what is the letter designation for the Romulans 19th Legion wormhole? Daniel said it is wormhole Zulu. Zulu's hidden under the Orion ship. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. I have a monster too, Paul says. Oh, yes. We'll have to take a look at that. Jim is crying shenanigans. Jim, no surrender. We're zealots. Me too. Ha, ha, ha. I'll run around and stay a thorn in the side if it comes to that. Fair enough. I respect that, Jim. I like that's the kind of player I like to be. Surgical strike, Tony. That's all you have to do, Bill says. Bill's really trying to get me to fight the Carnivon for some reason. It's very interesting. Second, shenanigans flag. Third, and you're into the naughty room. George Duffy. This is all a coordinated plan to eliminate Jim early so he can GM the next Into the Void game. George, I don't want to say that you're wrong, but if we do eliminate Jim, that allows him to focus on the next campaign. We'll have to see. But, I mean, to be fair, like when we go back, if you go back and look at the beginning streams on this particular campaign, you will see Jim being the biggest stirrer of the pot, provoking folks. And of course, you don't get to see the Discord necessarily, but if you're in the Discord channel, if you want to check that out, by the way, you can check out our coffee link over there. And there's a tier there to be able to join our Discord channel. And if you check that out, then you can see, for example, our narrative and all the different sort of channels that are going on. From the beginning, Jim has been poking, prodding, and looking for an opportunity to come down and fight me, interestingly enough. And as a result, for example, when in the earlier phase of the game, when there was the tag team on the Klingons, the Romulans and the Carnivon, Jim was looking to get into that too, and he was looking to come down and stir the pot and start a fight with me. The results of the rhetoric, the words, the chitter chatter, the shenanigans, as Jim would say, that got stirred up during that time was the impetus for why the ISC ended up attacking the Hydrons effectively in game. And so, as I say, that is a bed of Jim's making. And in addition, the exchange between Jim and the ISC has been so intransigent that there's been no room for negotiation or some kind of peace treaty. There's been almost no communication at all because there's been a certain degree of stubbornness on both sides to a degree. And that's fine. That's cool. You play the game. Like I say, it's a war game. There are going to be folks that get knocked out of the game. That's part of how a war game gets played. There are going to only be one, as you know, as the Highlander would say. So yeah, that's like it's just how it is, and it's just the way that a combination of the character that that Jim's been playing with the Hydrons from an RP perspective, this this religious theocracy that is sort of like looking to dominate the galaxy, and everything else that goes along with that, as well as the rhetoric trying to provoke and start fights with everybody else. So, and it doesn't hurt the fact that the player who plays the ISC knows Jim, and they're all both in the UK, and you know it's a great opportunity to be able to like fight someone you know and have fun doing it. So, you know, it is what it is. No harm, no foul. What else we got here? So Chuck, if you look at the fleets in the base game, most of the empires only fielded 3 exploration cruisers at one time, except the Feds, of course. Yeah, maybe that's the rationale behind it. Tisk, Tony, size does not matter. George is saying, I think he's talking about the size of my fleet and why I should potentially start a fight with the Carnivon. I find it very fascinating, interesting, hilarious that you guys all want me to fight the Carnivon. Oh, goodness. Jim, focus on it, LOL. I've been doing nothing but role-playing militaristic religious zealots. Absolutely. Theocratic warmonger. Hakapale? I'm not sure of that reference. Jim, off to the pain booth. Overgrown lizard. Yes, pain booth. Howard. Yes. Okay. Well, Jim and Bill are having their back and forth. While they're doing that, let me re-engage on our map and investigate the Tholians and the ridiculousness that is their economy. Okay. I'll just say it right here, right now. It is my belief that, at the very least, the Federation and potentially the Lyrans need to gang up on the Tholians, and the other factions in the game need to start focusing on the Tholians in one way or another. Why? We've talked about this many, many times, about how the Tholians are a... So there's let's say two. There's two major components to the Tholians. One, the faction themselves have a functionality of their ships that allows them to what's called pinwheel. And basically you take a bunch of ships and they kind of group together, kind of like in the trailer that you see there. You see the three Tholian ships come together and they form the pinwheel. And so basically what they're able to do is they're able to increase their defensive factors. Their attack factors don't increase, but they increase their defensive factors. We have seen how those combined defense factors can be of value in combat because it makes them a harder target to take out. It just takes forever to win battles with the Tholians. And they win this battle of attrition with you because they slowly but surely grind you down. So as a faction, once the Tholians are established in a location, it makes it very difficult to uproot them. Right? So as they expand and they grow and they establish themselves, they're just like the weed that will never go away. Two, the player, Derek, is the former GM of other campaigns. He is a very experienced player. He is very competent at playing this game, and he's hard to fight. In the last war that I was able to fight against him, it was referred to as the Three Powers War. It was him as the ISC, the Gorn on one side, and the Paravians on the other. So we were squishing him. We were fighting a two-front war with him, and he kicked our butt. Now, there's a number of reasons why that was the case, but fundamentally, he had played a long game, whereby he had invested in technology early on. He was able to acquire and get to GW tech ahead of both of the Paravian and the Gorn player, and the technologies and the sort of the tactics that he was using were basically like, for example, as the Paravians attacking him, I had about 5 turns of gains, and then the tide turned, like has happened with the Hydrons and the IC, and then he, as the IC, just steamrolled me. His GW ships had something called gun line, so that's a technology, combat capability, where you're able to add more ships to a battle line, and his specific ships were more powerful. So pound for pound, he was a bigger, badder target against me. We would have fights at star bases with a 32 attack and 36 defense. And I was unable to stop him from destroying my bases. And I had fleets that were bigger than his. I had arguably all the advantages, but when he brought his fleets to attack, he had so many more attack factors. His ships were more powerful. He had more of them in any one battle line, and he just blew through me. And he did the same thing to the Gorn. Now, the Gorn were able to fight a sort of a better sort of fighting retreat, but at the end of the day, we were both retreating, and we realized that there was no way we were going to win that fight. So that was against this particular player. Do I think that the same thing will happen here? I don't know, because I haven't seen the Tholian faction get into GW. I don't know what the Tholian GW ships are going to look like. I know that they're fundamentally more defensive or defensively oriented, but he is going to become a huge thorn in every other player's side unless you're on his side, in which case you're laughing. But it's going to be really difficult to deal with him. So how do we deal with the Tholian player? First of all, we gang up on him in the sense that one-on-one, he's going to kick our ass. If we go 2-to-1, I still think he's going to be able to fend us off. We're going to have to really combine forces and go after him. 2, we're going to have to make sure that we cripple him early or earlier to impede his progress. As it stands right now, the Tholians have the largest economy. They have the largest economy, they have no conflict, and they have the smallest military, which means where are they spending all that money? He's investing in technology. He's investing in M-Tech and GW Tech, and I guarantee you are going to see the Tholians be one of the first to show up with M-Tech, and that'll be a tell. Once they show up with M-Tech, watch out. He'll be doing it. He'll be investing in GW Tech as well, and it'll just be so hard to deal with him as a faction. So, arguably, as the Klingons, I could care less because he's literally so far away from me, it's not going to matter. You got so many other neighbors he's going to have to go through before he gets to me. What do I care? We'll probably get to the point where we kind of we all throw up our hands and say, good game. With him owning like half the map and me owning my little sliver, it's gonna be what it's gonna be. But if we want to take out the Tholians, I think the Tholians are from a long-term perspective, the greatest threat in the game currently. I've been talking about the growth of their economy and what that's going to look like, and we can see it happening in real time right now. So how are we going to respond to it as a collective sort of galactic community? We'll see. Yeah. I don't know. As it stands right now, let's take away the ships. You can see that he's building a YDK right next to this Kzinti faction, which doesn't like him. He's going to mount an attack against them, and he's going to use that YDK to be able to repair, obviously, all his ships to be able to deal with them. If I'm the Gorn, obviously, we can see the Gorn are finishing up their YDK as well. The question is, do I pick a fight with the Tholians? Maybe there's a way to support the Kzinti in a way that will cause the Tholians more pain. Maybe there's a way to get the Romulans on side so they can help with that in some way, shape, or form. I don't know. But if we can get the Romulans up into this area here, and we can have the Gorn and the Romulans start to cause some friction for the Tholians, maybe that will make a difference. Who knows? We'll see. But from a general player perspective, they're kicking butt and taking names. If we take away their ships real quick, we can see, so as I flash the ships here, you can see these 1, 2, 3 large exploration freighters are continuing to explore. We can see that they've got, the Tholians have cruisers, the YCs, with prime teams, and they're continuing to explore and push out their exploration that way as well. You can see they're using their these CPCs, which when you put 3 of them together, they operate like a tug. They're using those to be able to provide extended supply and build bases. Not sure what happened here where they've got these crippled ships, but nonetheless, they're positioned right there. They're gonna repair them at those YBSs, and yeah, when we look at we'll take away the bases real quick. We can see that it would seem as though this planet here is now fully operational battle station, and they're unhappy, but likely they are fully operational economically. You're going to see this one come online soon, and so, like I say, you're going to see the Tholian economy leapfrog into the 50s very shortly. Okay, let's bring back the bases. Come on, bases, and the ships. Okay. Obviously, we have R&D teams and Y convoys going back and forth. Interesting that there's 2 Y convoys in transit here. Wonder what's going on there. Normally, you can only do one at a time between factions, so we shall see. Okay, the Federation, if we take away their ships real quick, we can see the Kzinti faction here, the Kzinti faction here, and, of course, continuing to be a pain in everybody's side, the Carnarvon faction here. So these guys are minor factions in Federation space. They're trying to do the diplomatic route to be able to bring them on side. Another interesting note, we've got this wormhole, and this wormhole. They are the second faction to have 3 wormholes in their space. We know that this is titled Kepler. The Tango wormhole goes into Klingon space. I can't remember where the Hotel or the H wormhole goes. I don't know. Maybe they haven't even transited it. I'm not sure. But the uniform one is over in Hydran space. So interesting to note that. I'd be interested to see the Federation go through this Hotel wormhole and see what's on the other side. Maybe they already did and I'm just missing it. I can't remember. Is it in Hydran space? I can't remember. Anyways, I feel like they haven't gone through that wormhole yet. Someone please correct me in the chat if that is the case. All right. So what else we got? Again, back to how they're managing. You can see that they are continuing to explore, trying to get to the exploration of this hex. Now that they've got Hotel 10 unfogged, they have supplied to G10 or Gulf 10, which means that Home Fleet will be able to try and explore every turn until they unfog this fog of war hex, and the Federation continues to push their exploration. Large exploration cruiser here. They continue to push with their cruisers and prime teams. You can see that is continuing here. The Federation cruiser on top of this planet. Like I say, I'm very surprised that continues to happen without any kind of issue. We'll see how that goes. Orion base discovered here by 8th Fleet. I'm curious to see if they are going to continue to maintain an Orion presence in their space, or are they going to smack it like the Carnarvons did, by example. We can see 9th, 10th, and the Saratoga. Groups of cruisers with prime teams continuing to explore, again pushing towards the wedge or the center, just like the Lyrans are. The Federation are growing economically, just very slowly. Like I said, based on these, if they decide to go militaristic, watch out, because the Federation are going to be able to flip that switch very quickly and economically become like one of the 40s, and a substantial one at that. So watch out for them. Watch out for them. Okay, what else we got? We got the Lyrans. Lyrans in the top. Not much going on here. Again, the commercial convoys going back and forth. We can see looks like their ships and fleets are kind of coalescing around certain kind of pillars of strength, as I refer to them. So we can see bases and planets that they're coalescing around. The exploration, continues to go on this top corner here. And we can see that they are continuing to push into the corner. If we take away the ships real quick, they're building a base. So again, pushing, it looks like 3 supply, and they're pushing into the center. If I'm a betting man, they're going to be able to get around into the Bravo column, and they're going to continue to push down into the center. So it'll be interesting to see how the dynamic between the Federation and the Lyrans evolves as this goes forward, as they kind of push into this area here. Now, I know Chuck has talked about how he wants to potentially deal with the Hydrons at some point, so we'll be interesting to see how that works. I have a feeling, depending on how this goes, Chuck, you're going to miss your chance, because the ISC are going to stomp, are going to kill the Hydrons before you get a chance. Moving my head to the other side, let's take a look at the border area. We can see that there is still a cruiser, a Lyran cruiser. Hidden Dagger maintains its proximity to the border, but to be fair, if the Remans wanted to cross the border, I don't see the Lyrans being able to really stop them. A number of crippled ships. Woo. Right. So where are you moving to? We've got a YDK right there. Maybe they'll move up into the YDK. New and Prometheus fleet. Prometheus fleet. A couple cruisers and some frigates. We've got new fleet. Reman new fleet. Again, some cripple cruisers, really. And this is all just repairs from the Juggernaut and the Monster, collectively. And then, of course, we've still got Cerberus fleet, which is, let's take a look, Riemann Cerberus fleet. Oh, that's another one of their big hammers with the Dreadnought. So interesting, the Cerberus fleet has not redeployed somewhere. They're still in the area, loitering, wondering what they're going to do. Maybe once the supply network has been fully flushed out in ISC space, then they'll move down into that nook. We'll have to see how that evolves going forward. We can see that. Take away the ships real quick. Nothing too crazy as far as base building. No new bases in Riemann space, but we can see, of course, that they are building bases in ISC space. So, for example, you've got bases here. You've got a tug here, which is ready to build a potentially a base here and then work their way down. Although, if the Hydrons are about to get stomped, maybe there's no need to do that. We'll have to see. And of course, we've got the Riemann fleet. That is, we looked at them earlier, Columbia fleet, and then we have a tug and a frigate escort here providing extended supply. Maybe they're going to build a base here. Who knows? But once they do that, then the Riemanns can basically field their entire fleet into the space without the ISC having to effectively man the bastions themselves. So interesting. But regardless, this is quite a turn of fortune when it comes to the ISC Riemann conflict versus the Hydrons. And I got to give kudos to the ISC, not only bringing in the Riemanns, but just fighting the war the way they're fighting it. They're just doing really well. We've got this monster showing up in ISC space now. It has that sort of iconography of the Doomsday device, but that's not necessarily what it is. We'll have to see what it is when it's sort of encountered and discovered. So we'll have to see how that sort of walks forward. If it moves over this base here and blows it up, which is likely and or possible, then we'll get to know from the ISC what this thing is, because likely the base will have the opportunity to be able to identify it if it attacks. We'll just have to see. And then, of course, we're going into the rest of the ISC turn. We can see there are a number of crippled frigates here that are basically casualties from the earlier attacks in this area of space. We can see, as we mentioned as a recap, we've got the bases that are being built on the border, providing the supply to be able to push that attack going forward. And of course, be able to secure resources like these two resources here. There is, as you can see here, there are ships on top of this resource. I'm curious as to why it hasn't been given over to the ISC. Maybe our GM can comment on that. But other than that, that's the round table. That's around the clock, as we say. Let's go back into the chat here. Oh my goodness, already. Okay. That part is the big yawn for me. Me and Paul have beaten each other up a lot over the years. I was looking forward to pitting my skills against Tony. Ha ha ha. And proving that Hydran fighters are too expensive. Creeping doom. So Hydran fighters are too expensive. That's just a function of how we're using fighters in this particular iteration. The observation had been that fighters with the Hydrons was a little OP. And so there was a cost to replacing fighters that we incorporated that was... Jim believes is too expensive. Creeping Doom, that is or Red Tide is how Derek describes it when it comes to the strategy that the Tholians are going to be using, most likely. Real pain in the rear end, just like he is doing right now, the savvy Tholian. Eugene, Tholian damaged ships? What happened to those YPCs? I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Unfortunately, as a player, the Tholian player isn't necessarily as engaged in our community. Just not his bag, baby, as Austin Powers would say. He's not an online social media kind of guy. He's more of a not that way, which is fine. But I don't get a lot of sort of feedback or insight onto that. But if, Derek, you are watching this and you've lasted this long, then please let us know what happened to those YPCs. Tholians went on a piracy patrol, Daniel says. So maybe that's why those YPCs got attacked. He went off and killed some Orion pirates. They also have really robust base network, speaking to the Tholians, which they do. He'll probably be first in MTech. That's my guess as well, based on having no other conflict or sort of thing to bother him. Maybe I'll invite them through the wormhole, Jim says. That would be an interesting play to make, I think. Very interesting. Give them the planet Armageddon as a peace offering and get them involved in the fight. That would be a really interesting way to sort of get that going. Okay, George, question. How do Borak fighters factor into this game? Are they played like Hydrons, or is the attack factor boosted on each ship by 1? Good question. Have no idea. Borak, to be fair, have only ever been used in this game as a minor faction. In the Lost Stars campaign before it kind of devolved, they were a faction being played by the GM of that campaign, and I don't have any insight on that, unfortunately. So I just don't know. I'm sorry. Jim, not sure. I think they are more like drones. Daniel knows at the moment. Jim, no hockey stick this time. It's leapfrog. Yeah. Okay. Jim, ISC space, not Hydran. We'll see. Daniel Eastland, wormhole H used to exit at Tango 39, but then it moved off into unexplored space. Ha! There you go. Okay, interesting. Okay. Eugene, Monster, Sierra 12. Has it been there a while, or is it new? Let's look. Sierra. Where are you? Sierra 12. Oh, Sierra, that's the one we were just looking at. I believe that's brand new this turn. It wasn't there before, so it's a brand new monster that's shown up in ISC space. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, the ISC don't really have a lot in that area to deal with it. And to be fair, not too much of a concern at this point. Their priority is dealing with the Hydrons. And once the Hydrons are dealt with, maybe they'll turn around and deal with that. Or maybe the Romulans will redeploy one of their fleets. They've got a fleet here called Solar Fleet that's sort of in the Solaria fleet, excuse me. And it's more than robust enough. It's got a cruiser, 7 destroyers, and 4 frigates. So it's it's a 12 ship fleet. It could go deal with that monster if the Romulans wanted to. And the benefit of dealing with monsters is you get a little bit of a boost tech-wise from them. So it's advantageous to go take them out. Paul, next turn we'll find out what the monster is. Okay. Yes. All right. Well, very exciting this turn so far. So we're coming up on the 2-hour mark. I'm going to take a quick sip of coffee. It's cold. Yuck. All right. A little bit of water to rinse that out. Oh, yeah. All right. Well, what do you think? Very exciting set of developments. To recap, we have the Battle of the 5 Fleets, and the 5 fleets have basically been the 4 powers plus Orion pirates. They have, although the Hydrons and the Carnivons claimed victory in the battle, the strategic objective of destroying the base was accomplished by the northern factions of the ISC and the Romulans. They popped the base and they went back to their side of the border and basically have eliminated the ability at this point for the Hydrons and the Carnivon to be a threat to any of the sort of soft underbelly components of the ISC economy, those planets and resources that are in that area. Just in case, they've also completed a construction of their own YBS in that area to provide supply and reach so that they can go out and cause damage to any further Carnivon, Hydran, or other forces. In addition, the ISC is on the doorstep of the Hydran capital with a fleet that looks like they're just going to be able to stomp the bejesus out of that Hydran capital if they want to. The Hydrons have a bunch of ships in the area. The question is a combination of initiative and orders. How are the Hydrons going to position and move their ships in a way that will or won't allow them to be able to pin, stop, or otherwise obstruct those ISC ships from hitting the capital? My back-of-the-napkin math tells me that there's really no way that the ISC could pin enough ships. If the ISC kind of moves in the right sequence, I don't see them being able to stop it. The question is, maybe they bring all those ships to the capital. I don't know. Either way, it's going to be a tough battle one way or the other. And if the ISC want to, I see them potentially stomping the Hydran capital system. How is this going to all sort of affect the overall power structure in the game? If that happens, what are the Carnivons going to do? Are they going to, as I've been sort of talking about for so long, are they going to gobble up all that territory that the Hydrons have? Are they going to like break their alliance and go self-interested? Who knows? How are the ISC going to deal with that? If the ISC take out the Hydrons and like establish a new border, are they going to continue and move their way down to deal with the Carnivons, because the Carnivons were the allies of the Hydrons and have fought that war? There is still technically a war going on, regardless of what happens between those two factions, the Remans, the ISC, and the Carnivon, I guess 3 factions. So how is that going to work out? Chuck and the Lyrans have continuously talked about how they want to stomp the Carnivons. How are they going to work that out? Are they going to move in that direction? What's going on? Are they going to use their wormhole to their effect, to their advantage in that way? Who knows? What are the Carnivons going to do? Are they just going to sit back and let all these people talk trash about them? Or are they going to flex and do what they did before when they had the advantage of a bigger fleet? We'll have to see. If they try, they will fail, and they will A, fail, and B, spend 3 turns with a crippled, retreating fleet, Jim says. I'm assuming with regards to the attack on the Hydran capital. Either way, it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. What are the Tholians? How are the Tholians going to figure into this? Again, they are the king of the hill when it comes to economy, by a pretty significant margin. The Klingons are at a 45 economy, and the Tholians are at 48. That's 3. Granted, not a big difference at peacetime economy status, but it's not nothing. And they're continuing to grow, and the forecasting is that their economy is going to continue to get into, did I say 52, 53, something like that. Either way, they're going to pop 50 at some point soon. And how are the rest of the factions going to deal with that? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see and evolve as this campaign moves forward. If you have enjoyed this so far, then please consider joining our community like Captain Phoenix has done at the bottom there, and joining us by subscribing. Help us get towards that 500 subscriber number to unlock the community tab, which is the goal when it comes to the subscriber count piece. Thank you for joining us for this live stream thus far. Thank you for being part of our community. If you want to be further involved, get on the Discord and or another way, support us, then check out that coffee link below. Check out that coffee link, and or if Patreon's more your style, the link to that is in the description of this video as well. Please check us out. If you feel like purchasing a coffee, sending it our way, then please do so. Caffeination keeps this man going, and of course the motivation around this channel. So thank you very much, and of course the games that we are playing. Lastly, if you are interested into the Void, then be on the lookout for further notifications that are coming. We are starting on July 1st, so get your juices going. Be involved in the community. Again, just as a heads up, if you are already a Patreon and or coffee supporter, you get first crack at being part of the game and picking your faction and so on and so forth. So if you want to be part of that and you want to make sure that you get first up at a first come first serve kind of selection here, then please make sure that you're part of our community, either as a subscriber, as a supporter, or however else you want to be part of. We're going to be coming out with videos and notifications about how to sign up and do all that kind of stuff. And of course, if you're already part of our community, then reach out to us on Discord and or here in the notes of this video and figure that out. Last, I'm noticing there's a little sassafras going on between Jim and Paul here. Paul, next turn, we'll find out. If they fail, yeah, okay, and Paul's just laughing. Okay, we'll see how that goes. Anyway, for those of you who are part of our Discord group, then please join us over on Discord after the end of this live stream, and we can continue to banter back and forth and chat about how Jim is going to go down as a a burning ring of fire, or is he going to squirt ink and find a way to survive? Who knows? We'll figure that out. Either way, thanks for joining us here on today's wonderful episode of Star Trek New Worlds, and I will see you next week. Bye for now.